Welcome back to Sprague Homestead. So today we're going to be talking about rabbit pedigrees and why you should consider starting your meat rabbit herd with pedigreed animals. So one of the most common questions I get from people that are getting started in meat rabbits when they contact me looking for rabbits is, what do you have that's not pedigreed? We don't need pedigrees, we're just starting for meat. Usually at this point I try and educate people on why pedigrees can actually be a really good thing to have for your meat rabbits. We're going to go ahead and look at a pedigree on just a Trianta buck that I have. The breed of the rabbit doesn't matter. It's the information that we're looking at that's really the key here. What pedigrees will give you is a better idea of the ancestry of the rabbit. Now, why is this important? Well, this is important for those moments that you take two rabbits that are meat mutts and you breed two 10-pound rabbits together and you get a whole litter of basically mini racks. It's happened to me when I was doing unpedigreed rabbits, and I know it happens to other people. So when you go and you spend the extra money and you actually get some pedigreed rabbits and you get that ancestry, a lot of the times you can eliminate some of this kind of stuff. The other reason to look at doing pedigreed rabbits is because sometimes you'll get a really nice looking rabbit that'll come along. You maybe don't have room in your program and you think, wow, I could really sell this to somebody either for their own program, or if it matches the ARBA standard, you might be trying to sell it to a 4-H kid. And really, those animals need to be pedigreed. So you can command better prices with pedigreed animals because they're not only buying the animal, they're also buying the ancestry behind that animal. So let's go ahead and look at the basic pedigree. Now, this is a pedigree that comes out of my rabbitry. So you can kind of see the basic information. I do a 3-generation pedigree as far as ancestry is concerned. So we have parent, grandparent, great-grandparent. And I'll kind of zoom in here a little bit and kind of point as I'm going. Okay, so over here, what we're looking at is we are looking at the actual animal in question. Now, this is B262. That is his tattoo number. So you'll see where it says ear number. That's his tattoo. It tells me that he's a Trianta of standard breed. He is a buck and what his date of birth is. Now, at the time that I did this pedigree, he was just a junior, so I don't have any weights in here. He hasn't been registered. He doesn't have a grand champion, and he doesn't have any show legs. But when we get back into the parents, now we're looking at stuff that kind of tells us more of a story and gives us an idea of what we can expect B262 to produce going forward. So when we look at his father, RE6, we know that his dad was pushing 3 years old when he was born. And part of the reason the date of birth on parents and grandparents can be kind of important is when you go back and you see bucks and does that are producing at 4 and 5 and 6 years old, usually for your bucks, or 3 and 4, or even 5 in your does, you know that you've got a really long producing line. Now, not every breeder goes ahead and keeps date of birth on pedigrees, but I like to see it if I can get it. So something like this, I know that RE6 is still an active breeder, just shy of 3. He is registered, and what this tells me is that at some point, once he hit senior age, he was presented to an ARBA register who looked him over and said that he had no malocclusion, he had no genetic faults that were visible, and that he made the standard for the breed. This is important to me because I'm looking for a rabbit of a certain weight, right? And this doesn't matter if you're doing Triantas or Americans. You want a rabbit of a certain weight, because we don't shop based on just whatever, right? If we choose a New Zealand, it's because we're looking for a rabbit, that's going to mature somewhere around 10 to 12 pounds. So if we look at this and what we find out is that an ancestor is 9 pounds, now we know we're not quite hitting what we're looking for. So in this case, RE6 is registered, so we know that he's where he should be. We have a fairly recent weight. I like to try and keep mine up. That gives you an idea of how the rabbit weighs as he goes. A big reason that this is a big deal is you can register a rabbit as soon as they hit at least 6 months, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're done growing. I have an American doe that I registered right at, I want to say she was 7 months old, and she was 2 ounces away from max. So we registered her to know that she was within the breed standard, And then she actually went over standard. So she ended up being 13 pounds. Now, being outside the standard, I could not have registered her. And she had already won a whole bunch of Grand Champion legs and actually got her Grand Champion certificate. So I like to see an updated weight. If you don't, at least a weight or registration will tell you what they were at the time that they were registered. The other thing that I see on here is you can see where he has 3 legs of Grand Champion, or 3 legs. What that tells me is this rabbit showed. And I know if you're breeding meat rabbits, you don't really care, except the whole goal is to produce rabbits that have the absolute nicest physical characteristics. So when you see a rabbit that's won a leg of Grand Champion, that means that it has beaten at least, I think it has to be in a class of at least 5 animals by 3 different breeders. So you know that that animal has shown against competition and was proven in that show to be the best conformationally typed and closest to its standard at that show. So to me, it's a big deal. I like to see it even when I'm picking out stuff just to make better meat animals. I'm looking for stuff that's going to be within the standard. Moving on to Mom, we've got the same thing. So here's Mom's ear number. Mom was registered, telling me that she's within the standard. And I don't see any legs, so she didn't show, but that's not unusual for your doe lines. When we get back here to grandparents, once again, we've got registered rabbits, registered rabbits, registered rabbits. This one here is not registered, but we do see a weight that tells us it's within the standard. When we move further back, we see more registered rabbits. Or we see more weights that tell us, okay, well, that's within standard, that's within standard. Everything we've got is within standard. What this will kind of give you is an idea of what to expect. This line is never, or should never, give me a rabbit that's 3.5 to 4 pounds. Everything on the pedigree indicates that it's going to give me rabbits of a more correct weight, which in the Triantas is 4 to 6 pounds with a goal weight of 5 pounds. And for what I can see, that's pretty spot on. Now, in other breeds that have multiple colors, because you'll see in the Triantas, pretty much everything will say standard for the color. When you run into other stuff like Satins, New Zealands, Americans, since we have multiple colors, we do blue and white. It's important to have that if you're breeding, especially for pelts. You want to have some kind of consistency so you know what to expect in your colors. And that pedigree is going to be able to tell you that these are the colors that the ancestors had, and you can kind of figure out more of what you can expect to produce. So that's kind of a little overview on why you should look at doing pedigreed meat rabbits as opposed to just whatever you find off of Craigslist without pedigrees. There's a lot of good information in these pedigrees. You just kind of have to understand what it's good for. The biggest thing we're looking at is a lot of consistency and to avoid a lot of surprises down the road. Like I said, the offspring, if you choose to sell some down the road out of your meat rabbits, these guys are going to command a higher price than unpedigreed rabbits. So it's definitely something to look for. Now, when you're looking for pedigreed rabbits, I will say if a breeder hands you a pedigree and it's missing most of this information, walk away. For me, if it does not contain weights, if it doesn't have ear numbers, if it doesn't have colors, I'm not interested. That's not giving me any kind of complete picture, so it's just a worthless piece of paper at that point. And I'm kind of one of those where I have actually taken a really nice rabbit that I liked and given it back to somebody and said, your pedigree is incomplete, I'm not interested. I don't want surprises down the road. To me, if somebody's handing me a pedigree that's got a lot of blank spots, there's something to hide. I've also been handed a pedigree on an American that what I found is in the great-grandparent column, there's actually a New Zealand in there. Now, if that's something you want to do and that's okay, go ahead and do that. But that way you have the information and you know what to expect. So if you get 3 generations later, you're getting some stuff that's maybe not quite the right ear carriage or the right fur, which can be a big deal if you're doing pelts. Or maybe you're getting funky colors or weird weights. knowing what's on that pedigree is going to save you a lot of confusion of trying to figure out just what the heck you're dealing with. Alright, so that is it for today from Sprague or Homestead. If you have questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments, and I would be happy to get back to you. I know a lot of people go into meat rabbits without pedigrees, and if that's what you want to do, that's fine. Just remember, there's a lot of value to be found in those little pieces of paper. So that's it for this time. We will see you next time. Happy homesteading.